Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. We're going to be I'm going to be working on a watercolor portrait. You can use whatever media you like, but I have been using watercolor all this month, and we're about to work on a portrait of the author Philip Pullman, and it's going to be a watercolor portrait sketch. And I'm very happy to have you here. I see that Ingrid is here. If you're watching live, please say hello in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, say hello in the comments. And let's just start sketching. So, Philip Pullman, I have not done any additional work today. It's a weekend. It's been a wonderful family day. But I did want to draw maybe a bit more into this. But it was pretty fun. I enjoyed yesterday's session. Hello, Lisbeth. Philip Pullman today, and this time I'm going to go straight to watercolor again. And I was thinking maybe I might need to sneeze. That's not what I was thinking, but I'm feeling it. I'm sensing it. Hello, Lilo Fadenfisch. Perfektes Timing. Grieß ist gerade fertig. Ah, cool. Perfect. Martina, hello. Nana, nice to have you here. So, I'm just thinking of using, I don't know, this one, Potter's Pink, whatever it's called, just starting something. I want to put down like a face shape pretty briefly, and then kind of thin, just so that there's something here, and then to work into that. So just to get something happening. Hey Tommy, how are you? We went to a friend's birthday gathering this afternoon in Thüringen. Let me know if you're from Thüringen. And it was this really nice place, like I don't know, what was it? Like a Bauernhof cafe thing. And it was a pleasant afternoon with fruit trees and chickens and cake and coffee and friends. So that was nice. What's everyone else been up to today? I got to talking to a friend of mine about the Gadar Mace, this Indian club style of physical training that I had just started since my birthday, almost a month ago. And he's into it too. So that was really cool. And he said he's got a friend who has a lathe and makes these clubs, and suggested that we go there together and make some clubs. So that was an exciting idea. This color looks somewhat kind of accurate, and it's, I don't know if I like it. I like using green and blue and all these kind of loudish kind of colors, but we'll just keep going and see what happens. I just discovered today that we only have 2 proper work days this week, because Wednesday, Thursday and Friday are going to be days off school for the kids. The 1st of May is a public holiday here, and for some reason they're like, oh, well, the day before that can be a public holiday too, and the day after it. So that's interesting discovery. We knew that Thursday and Friday that was going to be the case, but weren't counting on the whole, on only having 2 days of the kids at school. Hey Corinna, catching up on sleep today, Martina. That sounds like an incredible thing to be able to do. Hi Corinna. Tommy went to an amusement park with your daughter and dad. So exhausted and your head is spinning from all the rides. Nice. Martina, you like the build-up of those earthier colours. That's nice. I'm glad you like it. I'm kind of feeling like, oh, this is not as direct as I want it to be, but but it's happening. I'm doing something different every day. Watching from the airport, Corinna, you hinted at traveling. Where? So it's already now. Whereabouts are you heading? So who has read Philip Pullman's books? So we are currently reading his Dark Materials, which is this trilogy which starts with The Northern Lights, which is also known as The Golden Compass. And yeah, I've been reading it with my child. Hello, Maya. Thank you for your waving hand. What's this color? Earthy tones. Let's use earthy things. I don't think I've used this at all. I think, what, is it burnt umber or something? And it's always interesting reading, inhabiting these imaginary worlds and all the exciting things therein. So this is already almost kind of dry, which is interesting. Martina, you haven't read the books yet, but you have watched the TV series and the movie. I just a couple of weeks ago heard about the TV series. I was not aware that there was a TV series. How was it? I've seen the film that was made, whenever it was made, a while back. I'm going to do about this silver. It could be, we keep it earthy. Just use a neutral. This color is actually called neutral tint. What does that even mean? I wonder if it's like the average, or they mixed all of the colors together. And then this is what they came up with. What's a neutral tint? That's a very pronounced curl up there. I was thinking of the really thin hair up the top, that would be really good to do with pencil on top of this once it's dried. It is truly magical. That sounds good. I'm going to use this French ultramarine with this initial colour, the Potter's Pink, whatever it's called. I've been meaning to look at the names of these colours for weeks. And some of you watching maybe know better than I do. Oh, that's very purple. I just wanted it to be a bit darker. But interesting. Maybe we'll just go with it, see what happens. Nudge me towards being more kind of decisive, perhaps. It's just too much on the brush. But I can push it around. So what's up with everyone? How have you been? How's life? How is your artistic practice? What other things are you practicing? Is anyone learning an instrument? Does anyone already proficiently play an instrument. Is it anyone's birthday? The actors are fantastic. I don't watch a lot these days, though I did watch The Wheel of Time. Has anyone seen The Wheel of Time? I read the books years ago, and I really like the series. I think it's quite cool. I used to be really into fantasy stuff. There's still definitely a fond place in my heart for it. If it's good, if it doesn't feel like I'd rather be drawing or painting. I've mentioned when I watched Game of Thrones, I would pause and sketch or try and sketch in motion, because there's so many great compositions, so much thought given to the look of everything, that there's like so much great reference in great film and TV, and there's a lot of really visually inspiring stuff in The Wheel of Time too, so that was fun. Has anyone read the Wheel of Time books? I wonder. I started with all this earthy stuff, and now I was thinking, what if I use some really like diluted hot pink? I wonder, more diluted than that. Cindy, welcome. The manga Berserk. I am not familiar with it. The Wheel of Time is. I enjoyed reading it back when I had the time to read a lot. It is a lot of books. I'm going to draw a bit. So of my condensed work week this week, I may still be able to get some stuff done with the kids home, but it's so challenging. Just like keeping them all content and busy, and trying to get stuff done. But my to-do list is I want to record my Patreon tutorial, which I'm looking forward to. What do you all have for plans? What's going on this week? I've got to look up. Is anyone here who's on my Patreon and has seen my roadmap of the year for what my themes are throughout the year? Because I don't even know what's happening in May. I know I cleverly thought of a theme. Maybe I'll look it up and let the paint dry a bit. That's what I'm going to do. Does anyone want to ask me anything? Or is there anything specifically you'd like me to address in the tutorial before I film it? Because that could be interesting. I really like responding to people's requests and needs. Just like I've been asking people to choose the colours and what should be what colour. I really like it. Like, so I've got my roadmap of the year of the subjects I want to cover and focus on, and but there's still space within that if people are like, oh, I'm really curious about this. Like, how would we go about doing that? Oh, okay, I just found it interesting. Only shapes, creating portraits without line is the task. I say I was really looking forward to getting back to pen and pencil, but creating portraits without line, what am I going to use? Tell me what that sounds like to you. Okay. Wow. I haven't made it easy for myself. I thought it might be hands. That's going to be later in the year. Expressive hands. In November, I've set it up. Hands is going to be the topic, and I was hoping it might be something like that where I can really get into drawing for a while. But what does creating portraits without line mean? I was thinking like a blocks of stuff. People have asked if I've used pastel. I don't know. I haven't really, but I was wondering maybe that could be a thing. Or using... I do know what... I think there's lots of possibility, and I'd love you to make suggestions of what that sounds like to you. What could that be? Which I think can be really interesting. Definitely focusing on shapes, the shadow shapes idea, shapes in general. But yeah. All right, interesting. Oh, cool. Martina, you started the Patreon lesson on hands and you think it's been helping. I would love to see your work in progress. That'd be super cool. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Yeah, that was one of the first Patreon tutorials I filmed back in the day, because I know it's like hands are challenging, and it's really good to be able to just not shy away from drawing hands, because they're so expressive, and hands can become like additional characters within a portrait. Really wonderful expressive hands. So yeah, that'll be fun. It's going to be later in the year that we're focusing on hands, and I think it'll be portraits with hands as well. Hands doesn't just mean only hands, but it is great practice if you want to improve your hand drawing and become more accustomed to drawing hands. Then it's great to draw a lot of hands. I talked to my grandfather today and my mum, and he's 93, and he told me that his chair has been squeaky and that someone came over and lubricated the chair, and it's not so squeaky. It's not making so many weird noises anymore. And I was like, oh, that's right. I also have a squeaky chair that sometimes creaks and groans in inopportune moments. And some things just really need to, the time needs to really be right to do anything about it. So you'll have to, I don't know, how often do you notice the creakiness of my chair? When I hear it, it's like, oh, that's... because sometimes I've been filming tutorials and I'm in the middle of saying something and I think it's really good, or even in like on the Drawn Together show and we have guests on, and then I kind of lean back. I'm like, wow. So sometimes I would appreciate my chair not to be so vocal. Tommy, would I be willing to make a Patreon video on how I handle portrait commissions? What exactly do you mean? Like, how I work on a portrait commission? How I react when someone asks? How I price things? There's a lot I could cover for sure. You only notice the chair when I mention it. Wait a minute, the view of the world without glasses. Piles of novels that I read through and some that I still need to read. It's just never enough time in the day. I know there isn't. Martina, you notice the chair every second? Sorry, sometimes I read the comments and I'm thinking, what was I talking about when that person responded? Only shapes. What am I going to do? Is that something that sounds interesting to you? The idea of working with only shapes? I've been longing for drawing and lines and ink. My pen. But I'm going to figure out ways to make it work. So I think of like pushing, like using flat drawing objects. There are these like blocks of compressed charcoal and stuff that I have. Maybe I'll do some larger scale things. That could be interesting. Because the kind of tools I'm thinking of, like big flat blocky drawing tools, and not. It could be interesting to work on some small scale stuff, but I feel like it's good to have space to move, because it's not something kind of small and refined, that kind of way of working. So it's good to be able to do something big and expressive. But it was a joke. Like Tommy said, barely notice it. Just when I mention it, okay. I don't notice it until it happens, and I'm like, oh, that's still a thing. This is interesting, just adding lines to like all the looseness of what was underneath. Like there was some point, I didn't mention it, I don't know if you noticed it, but I was kind of like, oh, there's like, what's going on with the painting? But adding the line work to it really is such a way. It's interesting to choose at what phase to put that in place. So traditionally I would start with line first, and it's interesting to go paint and then line, and maybe come back to paint. So sometimes I do line, paint, line. Yeah, it's just interesting to try things out, explore, see if different approaches lead to different results. All the things I show the client during the process. What are the usual struggles and how do I deal with them? Interesting. That's something to think about. When I've I have to think about that. There have been my most recent commissions. People just have been pretty happy, but I have had less so with portraits, but with illustration stuff that I've done in the past, things that we've had to work around. Like once I did a really comprehensive kind of concept for a big illustration project, and I thought this is really cool. And I guess this is also part of a learning curve, not to invest too much into something before it's really been greenlit and you've got approval. But I thought this is really cool, and with the client, I had done some work with them in the past. I think this is going to be cool, and I had done this whole concept and quite in depth around something which I thought was really fitting to the subject matter. But the client then was like, oh, we want something really different. And I had to kind of pivot and do just kind of everything that I had, the effort I had already put into it was kind of like, oh, I can't really use any of that anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like with portrait commissions, I think my mindset when I'm working on a commission is very different than when I'm just like sketching for fun. And like when the likeness is a bit off, like in these live streams, that sometimes it's just like, it doesn't bother me too much. I'll just kind of keep going with it. But when I do a commission, I have, maybe it'd be interesting if people kind of like weren't too attached to having a really tight likeness. That could be interesting. But when I think, okay, people are paying for this and they probably want it to look like the people they want painted, then the way I work with it is much more meticulous to make sure that I get things in place. I often, when it's just like the live stream sketches and just having fun, it's a much looser kind of thing, but my own kind of standard for what I think that they probably want also kind of switches when I know that, oh, this is like a special moment, maybe a wedding portrait or a portrait of someone's grandkids. Like I'm presuming they want it to look like those people. So the way I work changes because I feel like my kind of expectation for the work becomes different, even if it's not something that the client has articulated. So it is a different process. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to talk about, like anything that can be helpful for people. And also pricing is a thing, and it's something like I keep going back and forth. Sometimes I think I have ideas in mind for prices, and people are like, oh yeah, that's good. And some people are like, I get ghosted when people ask for the price and I tell them and they just never respond. Or sometimes I've said prices and people are like, oh really, that's all? Like, don't you want more? That's something which I find pretty challenging to figure out, and I'm always really curious when I see other people selling their work, like how they go about it. And does everyone know John Ofori? I have some pieces of his. He's amazing. He was a guest on the Drawn Together show, and he posted something about some new work he has available, and also how he does the pricing is on his website, and he just prices by square inch, and the bigger the piece, the more it costs. All like super reasonable prices, and that's an interesting way to go about it. John's work is amazing. Where's that white pencil? A little bit of white in here. Could be interesting. Do I always accept commissions? Pretty much. Especially if they're portraits. Like, I just love portraits. sometimes people are like, oh, could you do this thing for me? And I'm kind of like, oh, I could. But there are different things that demand a different kind of thought capacity. And I know, like, I just, if I had a portrait commission every day, I'd be so happy. I'd love it. Um, I could just do portraits all the time. So that's why I'm doing it here. But sometimes because I've done all sorts of stuff, and people are like, oh, hey, you draw, could you do this? I'm like, okay. And sometimes it's not really, like, subject wise, not necessarily what I am totally into, but I am into, like, making money, and making money from drawing is pretty good. Like, I've got to pay the rent and feed my kids and all this stuff. So I have generally taken most commissions that I've been asked to do. But there have been things that I've kind of been like, oh, if I say yes to that, I'm going to be so distracted from what I'm trying to focus on. And so I've tried to refer things to other people that I think would be really great for what's being asked of. And one of them was the mural project I did with the kids just recently. And I was like, well, I don't really have time at the moment, and I know that would be a pretty big, demanding thing, but how about these people? And then I referred a bunch of people, but none of them ended up doing it. And then they got in touch with me again later, and were like, oh, none of that worked out. Do you have anyone else in mind? And I was like, oh, actually, at the moment, now I could imagine doing it. And so then that became a thing. So that was kind of cool how that worked out, because it's been really fun. So I think, yeah, it's good. There's a lot of things I know theoretically, like about accepting work and doing things, but it's kind of, everything depends on the moment of what is going on right then. But by the way, if that's an indirect question, hey, I'm open for commissions. I'll do portraits for you. Anyone can always get in touch with me if you want a special gift for someone, or a special gift for yourself. I love doing commissions. I know a lot of people don't, particularly if it's portraiture. Like, if I have cool reference and I get to paint some people that some people love, or do a drawing. I had one commission last year, and someone referred that to me, a local job, because they had been asked if they could do a portrait drawing, and they were like, Dylan could do a portrait drawing, and they referred this client to me, and I did it. I had fun doing it. It was a really big pencil double portrait of two kids, and the moment of delivering it to the client was so nice. It was their mum, and she was so happy, and she was just really moved and so in love with her children, and then really loved the work. And I was like, wow, it was a really beautiful encounter. Just being invited into the home and just have to someone who's so appreciative, which that's like, if you could choose the clients you have, like, that was pretty perfect. I have heard stories from people where, there are things where people want revisions, or they're like, oh, a friend of mine was doing a portrait for someone, and they weren't really happy with how they looked, and they might, like, it depends, like, when stuff like that comes into it, that can be pretty tricky. Like, if it's totally open to you to fulfill it and do the job to the best of your ability, however you see fit to do it, that is the best. So then it needs to be really clear to, like, I think if we hold ourselves to our own standards, and we know that we want to do a good job and we want to do something cool. Of course you want the client to be happy with what you're doing. I find it like I would just always do anything to the best of my ability, and so far that has seemed to work out. Thank you, Corinna. I'm glad you like it. It's so different than the beginning. Martina says, yep, the colours can be striking at first, but after it dries, you can work between and see what happens. Yeah, like, was that addressing the pink? Yeah, because this doesn't look like hot pink anymore. There's a little bit down here, but I like where this has gone. This has been cool. And I feel like I'm almost done for today. And I would definitely think on the idea. It doesn't really fit directly into my list of things for my roadmap of the year, but we'll see what happens. It's something I'm happy to talk about. I also know of experience from other people, like how they go about doing things. And it's something I've often thought of that would be really valuable, is just to share kind of these practical kind of business things for anyone who's kind of interested. And I've had ideas in the past which I never got around to really hosting, but just having like open chats with practicing professional artists about some of their practices, what works for them, how they do different things. But there's so many possibilities. It's always it's always totally unique. I find it's not a totally clear path of like, you do this and this and this and this is how it works out. That's part of it keeps it interesting. Nothing, I don't know, so far for me, apart from my own practice, the practice I put in, like nothing is predictable. It's been like that for years. Everything is always in motion, always learning new things and trying things. So yeah, make sure you like and subscribe to keep up to date with whatever I'm doing. Who knows where the path will lead. And join the Discord server so we can hang out and share stuff there. I'm about done. Put your drawing hand emoji in the chat. Martina, you also really like the way this one turned out, the layering. Thank you. I'm glad you like it. It was interesting. In that initial wet phase, the really sketchy phase, I was kind of like, what is going on? And I'm also happy with the shifting back and forward between paint and pencil. I feel like has been good. Is that it? We're done for today? I think so. Almost. I just had an idea because I was so keen to get back to pen and pencil kind of drawings. Maybe I could also mix it up a bit. So do some like shape only rather than only doing shape only all month. I'll see, because I'm kind of craving it. So maybe I can mix it up a bit with my monthly topic and just doing some like calligraphy pen with the water brush kind of stuff, because yeah, those have been some of my favorites this year so far, some of those calligraphy pen, parallel pen pieces. So I'd love to do some more of that. But I also want to keep to my plan for the year, because I think it's really interesting topics to explore in there. Thanks everyone for paintbrushes and sketching hands. So happy to have you here. Thank you, Nana, for thinking this is amazing. Lisbeth, if you were Pullman, you'd want this portrait on all your book cover jackets. That's nice. You can also tag Philip Pullman Official on Instagram. Tag me, tag Philip, maybe he'll see something. Who knows? There are some people, like, I was surprised that Philip Pullman has an Instagram account. And there are some people that I would think probably don't deal with their own Instagram accounts. And I don't know, maybe he's on there every day checking things out like I am. But I just imagine for some reason that Philip Pullman would not be hanging out on Instagram. But what do I know? Maybe he loves it. Maybe he'll see it. But yeah, thank you, Philip Pullman, for your books. It's fun reading. I forgot to ask. I was going to ask for cool book recommendations to read with young teenagers and kids. But I forgot to ask. There we go. End of the live stream. If you have any recommendations, put them in the chat. I like about Philip Pullman's that it's like fantasy, but it's also like an alternate history. It feels like it's traveling back in time, and it's referencing a lot of real world stuff, but it's really different. And the idea of the daemon, of having like an animal part of yourself, which is like an expression of your soul, and this constant relationship and companion that you have with you, is really interesting in the books. And there's some really interesting like infinite worlds, parallel dimension ideas in the books. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there, and it's like it's entertaining, but it's also there's some real substance to the ideas, and that's fun. That's something I feel like with The Wheel of Time as well. There's also some really cool ideas to explore, and that's a lot of good fantasy. I feel explores really interesting ideas about so many things. It could be anything, I guess. But I guess the special, the touch of magic you often have in fantasy books is often interesting ways to kind of perceive the connection to the world and nature and each other. And yeah, all right. We're about done. Thank you for being here, everyone. You're all great. Sally, you made it, says Martina. Thank you, Sally, for making it. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Wait a minute, let me just have a look. I'm not quite finished. 13 viewers, 13 likes. Wow, cool. Thank you. I presume everyone has hit the like button. Thank you very much. And I'll see you next time. Rest well, dear friends. Thank you for being here. See you next time.